Rodman the Keeper, written by Constance Fenimore Woolson, narrated by Bruce Lieberman.
Rodman the Keeper. Keeper of what? Keeper of the dead. Well, it is easier to keep the dead than the living. And as for the gloom of the thing, the living among whom I have been lately were not a hilarious set. John Rodman sat in the doorway and looked out over his domain. The little cottage behind him was empty of life, save himself alone. In one room, the slender appointments provided by government for the keeper, who, being still alive, must sleep and eat, made the bareness doubly bare. In the other, the desk and the great ledgers, the ink and pens, the register, the loud ticking clock on the wall, and the flag folded on a shelf were all for the kept, whose names, in hastily written, blotted rolls of manuscript, were waiting to be transcribed in the new red-bound ledgers in the keeper's best handwriting, day by day, while the clock was to tell him the hour when the flag must rise over the mounds where reposed the bodies of 14,000 United States soldiers, who had languished where once stood the prison pens on the opposite slopes, now fair and peaceful in the sunset, who had fallen by the way in long marches to and fro under the burning sun, who had fought and died on the many battlefields that reddened the beautiful state, stretching from the peaks of the Marble Mountains in the smoky west down to the sea islands of the ocean border. The last rim of the sun's red ball had sunk below the horizon line, and the western sky glowed with deep rose color which faded away above into pink, into the salmon tilt, into shades of that far-away heavenly emerald which the brush of the earthly artist can never reproduce, but which is found sometimes in the iridescent heart of the opal. The small town, a mile distant, stood turning its back on the cemetery, but the keeper could see the pleasant, rambling old mansions, each with its rose garden and neglected outlying fields, the empty Negro quarters falling into ruin, and everything just as it stood when on that April morning the first gun was fired on Sumter. Apparently, not a nail added, not a brushful of paint applied, not a fallen brick replaced, or latch or lock repaired. The keeper had noted these things as he strolled through the town, but not with surprise, for he had seen the South in its first estate when, fresh, strong, and fired with enthusiasm, he, too, had marched away from his village home with the colors flying above and the girls waving their handkerchiefs behind as the regiment, 1,000 strong, filed down the dusty road. That regiment, a weak, scarred 200, came back a year later with lagging step.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?